Now I will discuss about the GI tract reflexes. The first one that we have here is gastrocolic reflex. Now how we know that what is the function, how on which organ this reflex will occur? The first word like there here is gastro, which means stomach. This means the first word will give the stimulus, and the second one is the one on which action will be there. So let me explain the gastrocolic reflex. Now in which it means that when the food present in stomach, this will cause distension of colon. So this is called gastrocolic reflex, means food is present in stomach and it will cause distension of colon. Now this gastrocolic reflex is most common in infant, as we know that in infant you will observe whenever they eat food, after eating completion of food they run towards the bathroom for the defecation, because of this gastrocolic reflex, that when food enters in the stomach it will cause distension of colon. So as a result, when there is distension of colon, so that as a result of which the stimulus will be there, so the defecation process will occur, and this is most common in children. Now second one is gastroileal. Again here the gastroileal means that there is food present in stomach, and then it will cause relaxation of ileocecal sphincters, right? So when the food is present in stomach, so it will cause the relaxation of the ileocecal sphincter. It is the sphincter that is present at the junction of ileum and cecum. Cecum is the part of large intestine, whereas ileum is the part of the small intestine. So it will cause relaxation, because when the food is in stomach, our whole GI tract is controlling it. It is preparing itself for the food coming towards it. So when food is in the stomach, it will cause relaxation of ileocecal sphincter to prepare it that the food is coming. Now the third one is enterogastric reflex. Enterogastric reflex. Well, so entero means small intestine. If I speak here specifically, then here it means duodenum. So when the food is in duodenum, let me change the page first. Okay, so when food is present in duodenum, then it will cause as a result of which there will be reflex that, as I have discussed, is called entero, which means small intestine, gastric reflex. And in this reflex, what will occur, that duodenum will cause decrease in GI gastric motility, not GI gastric, only stomach motility will decrease, and decrease in secretions in gastric, which means stomach. Now what are the factors that will cause this thing, that when the food is acidic, as we know that the food that enters from the stomach towards the small intestine, that is called chyme. So I can say that acidic chyme will cause a stimulation of this reflex, as a result of which there will decrease gastric motility or decrease gastric secretion. Both will occur, not or. Okay, then what type of food? When there is fat type food, or that will cause this enterogastric reflex to be stimulated, and as a result of which gastric motility and gastric secretion will be decreased. Now the third thing is distension of duodenum, and then it will also cause the stimulation of this reflex. And now as we know that why this thing is occurring, as we know then food enters from the stomach towards the duodenum, so that when the stomach is almost empty, if this reflex does not occur, as a result of it, GI tract will continue its motility when the food is not present in GI tract, and its secretions will be continuously there. And as we know that the secretions done by GI tract is most commonly, that is HCl. So this will affect the epithelial lining, and this may lead to the ulcer. Ulceration will be there. What does mean by ulcer? Ulcer means that there is erosion of the mucosa. or mucosal layer, specifically if I say. So erosion of mucosal layer will be there. As we know, the most commonly people here are affected by peptic ulcer, but that is because of the acidic intake of food. Now when the person eat the acidic kind, which means that the environment has become acidic, so our duodenum will cause decrease in GI motility and decrease in GI secretion, so that the stomach should not be affected to much extent. And that's why when we intake food, fat, when we take a food that is rich of fats, so it will decrease the GI motility and decrease the GI secretions. So as a result, this is the reason we commonly we experience that feeling of fullness after taking a fat-rich diet. That is the reason that enterogastric reflex is stimulated, and that's why the GI motility does not occur. So we feel that the stomach is completely full, and that's why it is not moving. And then now there is another receptive regulation of stomach. In this type of reflex, what occurs then when the food is in small intestine? This will cause when the food is entered from the esophagus towards the stomach. This is the stomach. When food enters in the stomach, when food enters in the stomach, as a result of which there will be distension of the fundus. This is the fundus region. So distension of fundus. And who is responsible for this distension of fundus? That is vagus nerve. As we know, normally vagus nerve is a nerve of parasympathetic stimulation. So it will cause overall the contraction, decrease in GI contraction of the smooth muscles in the GI tract to decrease the peristalsis. But here vagus nerve does not follow the rule. Here when the food enters in the stomach, as a result of a distension of fundus occurs. Now the question is why this occurs. The reason behind is that the stomach should be more and more distended when food enters, so that GERD does not occur. What is GERD? Gastroesophageal reflux disease. That when food enters here, and if this fundus region is not distended, then food will move back towards the esophagus, and it will cause the irritation of the epithelial lining of the esophagus, and this will lead to the GERD, that is gastroesophageal reflexes. So receptive regulation of stomach is the one in which there is, when food enters in the stomach, the distension of the fundus occurs because of the vagus nerve to prevent us from the disease, that is GERD. Now the last one, that is defecation reflex. Now when this reflex occurs, when this reflex starts. The first reflex starts when the pressure in rectum reaches to 18 millimeter of mercury, Hg, right? And then the second final defecation reflex occurs when pressure in rectum reaches to 55 millimeter of mercury, right? Now another reflex is there, that is orthocolic reflex. This reflex is common in infants. But in this reflex, what occurs when a person wake up from the supine position? When a person is in supine position, like when we are sleeping, then we wake up and we come in this type of posture. Let's consider this as a person, right? And then we come in this position, as a result of which the GI tract stimulation occurs, and it sends signals towards our spinal cord, and as a result of which a reflexes occurs in which there is distension of rectum, and as a result of which person feels for defecation. Now let me explain again that in orthocolic reflex, when a person is lying down, that is it in supine position, when the person, wake up, so there is some information is via the nerves is taken from our GI tract towards the spinal cord, and it will cause the rectum to distend, and as a result of which most commonly you have observed in infants and in adults too, that when they wake up from the sleeping posture, they move to run towards the bathroom because for the defecation. So the reason behind is that is orthocolic reflex, that when the person changes his position, that is from supine position, it wakes up. So as a result of which a rectum become distended and it causes the defecation, and it is most common seen in orthocolic. Okay, now I discuss what type of reflex are there and what part of the body is involved in that. Let me explain this. We have local reflex that occur in the GI tract. Here we are talking about the GI tract. Local reflex in which only enteric nervous system is involved. That is, any type of reflex will occur that enteric nervous system will control it and send signals towards the smooth muscles, and only enteric nervous system is involved. Hence, it is called a local reflex. Then the second one is short loop reflex. In this type, the enteric nervous system sends information towards the spinal cord and it will send back information towards the enteric nervous system. So this type of reflex is called a short loop reflex, and example of this one is orthocolic reflex. As I told you that in orthocolic reflex, when the person was supine position, when he changes position, his posture of the body, as a result of which information is sent from via the enteric nervous system towards the spinal cord, and spinal cord will send information back to the rectum, or specifically if I talk that is the large intestine, and an orthocolic reflex will be stimulated, as a result of which defecation will occur. And the third one is long loop reflex, in which ANS will send information towards the spinal cord. Spinal cord will send information towards the central nervous system, and then central nervous system will send towards the spinal cord, and spinal cord will send information back to the CNS. So the long loop reflex, the word long is, it tells us that it is a long reflex, that the information is taken via these three things. So CNS is involved in the long loop reflex. Example is defecation reflex, because in defecation we do the defecation with the information done by the CNS, because as we know the anal, if we talk about the anal sphincters, we have two types of anal sphincters. One is involuntary and other is voluntary. So the voluntary is controlled by this CNS, central nervous system. So that's why the long loop reflex, that example is defecation, which involves the CNS. Thank you.